So Andrei introduced both of us. About me, with the risk of being impolite, I would have to add that I am a correspondent of Digi24 television in Hungary. Hungary was the first country after the failed coup d'etat in Turkey which took position by Turkey and expressed solidarity with the Turkish government and the Turkish president, and expressed the necessity of stability in Turkey and that of supporting Turkey and the Turkish democracy. Ambassador Bozkir, how about other European countries after Hungary? Are you pleased with their position on what happened in Turkey in July, or not really?
Actually, we faced with a very difficult situation. In Turkey, we experienced a lot of military coup d'etat attempts or coup d'etats, but this time it was from a terrorist group, a religious cult infiltrated into the military, security system, intelligence, legal system, tried to achieve this, tried to kill the president, attack the parliament with F-16 planes and helicopters, and the government was envisaged to be toppled. So at that time, actually, sentimental people in Turkey was looking to see the friends coming to Turkey, showing their solidarity and support. But it came with a delay of 6 weeks almost. So it is now very difficult to explain why it was like that. I mean, making a phone call, sending a message from some countries happened, but what we needed was physically our friends from the Western world coming to Turkey. We of course expressed this, and messages taken. Now it is sometimes every day 3 or 4 ministers at the same time coming to Turkey to give the support. We will not live with it anymore, but I think this unfortunate not sharing solidarity and the problem happened.
There are many voices in Western Europe, and maybe this is answer to your question and to your doubts on why the reactions were so delayed, that the human rights and free speech in Turkey are very limited. Western countries have expressed their concerns about these issues before the coup d'etat also, and after that saying that there is a political cleansing going on, tens of thousands of people suspended or even arrested, and this is way much over-proportioned reaction to what happened, given that only a handful of militaries organized this failed coup d'etat.
Well, actually, this was, what happened was something which didn't happen in any of the Western world countries. So it's very difficult to understand what it was going to cost Turkey. It was to get rid of the president, get rid of the democratically elected the government, dissolve the parliament, and we lost 242 lives who came out to the streets to stop the tanks or the helicopters, and almost more than 2,000 people are injured. Some of them are paralyzed. So, and this happened. So here the word proportion is not the word to be used, because if we look at similar cases, for example in France, we had 3 terrorist attacks and we showed our solidarity. The Prime Minister and me the next day was in Paris to really protest what happened there. And again, a state of emergency has been declared in France just because of the 3 attacks. Perhaps like 1,000 people has been arrested, or some of them was in danger to even lose their French citizenship. So here we're talking about the whole system infiltrated by this group, And in the intelligence, for example, we have found 80 people in the intelligence service who were connected to this scheme. We got rid of them. In the education system, more than 45,000 teachers have been fired. Think of schools. You know that a teacher is teaching in line with this group's aims and targets. You can't leave the children anymore to those teachers. So it may be 45,000, it may be 1,000, it may be more, but the principle is to eliminate this danger from Turkish democracy, from Turkish everyday life, and that is the main the differentiation between the approach. So I think unless we get rid of this, this will come back again, either as a coup d'etat or either as enlarged infiltration into the system. The legal system must be saved. The main pillar of a democracy, a rule of law state, is the legal system. Unfortunately, the judiciary is almost captured by this group. The security, the police, 85%. Military, half of the generals was involved. Science and technology institutions, they have created new systems to listen phones and to listen to discreetly new technologies and then use it as a blackmailing against people or use them as something against the democratic life in Turkey. So the proportion is not the word here. Whatever necessary has to be done is the word here to satisfy the proportion expectation. If we, for example, instead of 45,000 teachers, we fire 1,000 teachers, that means 39,000 teachers will still be in the scheme. So we're facing a situation where we are risking the future of Turkey, existence of Turkey, and this is very grave, this is very important, and what we have done is we have delayed the application of the International Human Rights Declaration, taking advantage of a given possibility. It's not suspended, but it is postponed, as France has done, as UK has done. So when the state of emergency is over, I hope it will be over in a few months from now, then everyday life will come back with a trustable, credible legal system, the institutions back in correct format, but these people will have to be punished and they will serve their terms in prison if necessary.
Also, Turkey has asked for the extradition of Fethullah Gulen, the person that is seen as most responsible for what happened in July in Turkey, which puts the United States in a difficult position. On one hand, how come that the CIA didn't know that this person was comploting against Turkey? And the other thing is that this can be regarded as a pressure from Turkey on the United States, which if the United States gives in, it will be seen as a weak administration. How do you think that this issue can be handled properly?
Well, this is not a political decision in the United States. We know that. It has to pass through a legal procedure. That's why we are giving all the evidence, which in 80 big boxes, files has been sent to the United States. Delegations from US came here to ask questions, what this file means, etc. So all the evidence is there. But what we have asked is twofold. One is, okay, you continue with this legal process. We know that the political system cannot give instructions to the legal system, as in my country as well. But meanwhile, you have all the right to stop the movement of this terror organization leader who lives in Pennsylvania, and he in a way directs a kind of an empire in 160 countries, schools, companies, infiltration also in the system, and nothing is done. He's just moving freely, making phone calls, whatever. So I think the first step is to limit his moves through the legal system and then start the procedure. Because I think we're talking about a kind of a big operation. The money or the budget every year this group has is calculated with billions of dollars. Only in the education system in Turkey, the annual revenue was $8 billion. And it was transformed into 2 companies. So these companies used this money plus the charity money they collected from innocent people who thought this was a moderate group just for schools and for charity work. And these monies were invested for other big projects, minefields, gold extractions, or natural gas operations. So this revenue added to the 8 billion, and it was transferred to a bank which belonged to this group and legally transferred to a illegal purpose. So we're talking about billions of dollars which may be used in any country to have the same kind of a result. That's why we're warning, and it's not only in Turkey that we can finalize this. We have to cooperate with the other friendly countries.
Let's turn back to the relationship between the Turkey and the European Union. There is a very delicate issue between Turkey and the Union related to the lifting of the visa obligation for Turkish citizens. And previously, Turkey has given a deadline of October, which we are in, for lifting the visa obligation, which puts again the European Union in a difficult position. If it will lift this obligation, it will seem as if Brussels had given in to Turkey, and if no, the relationship will be difficult on the area of the refugee crisis.
After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Soviet Empire, the big economic crisis, or the Arab Spring, as we call its political transformation, also this illegal migration flow suddenly appeared, and it became a common issue for all of us. So in that point of difficulty, Turkey and the European Union cooperated very closely. We had a lot of agreements, and it was aimed at stopping the illegal migration and transforming it to a legal migration, where people is going to have a decent life through an accepted scheme, shared responsibilities, and so the flow of this illegal migration will be stopped. So we achieved a success, if I may say so. A daily figures of 8,000, for example, now is single digit and well controlled. But this was a package deal. Because we were claiming that unless we work on the psychology of this pressure of illegal migrants, then we will never be able to stop it. The psychology was, we gave, for example, working permission to the Syrian guests in Turkey, gave them a possibility to earn the minimum salary for the Turkish citizens. We opened schools. 700,000 people needs education. So we have only possibility for 450,000 now. So EU was supposed to give some financial contribution to the Syrians in Turkey so that schools, hospitals were constructed, sewerage systems, drinking water facilities in where they live would be enlarged. And this was 3 billion euros for this year, 3 billion euros for the coming year. So out of 6 billion euros, the amount comes only 10% or 15%. So we lost the psychological effect of EU helping the Syrians in Turkey, and it didn't have any effects to bring it down. So, and visa was one of the main issues, because I think Turkey has made a lot of attempts to remove visa. Normally it was given to any country who started negotiations. The moment they started, visa was liberated. So Turkey, being a large country population-wise, was an excuse, but then you see Russia or Ukraine having the visa liberated, but not for Turkey. So this was attached to the readmission agreement in 2013, when the migration, illegal migration, didn't start. So it was something different. So we had 72 criteria, and until the moment the Commission decided in May, these criteria was dealt. I was a part of it. We discussed every sentence of it to check if we were fulfilling the expectations, and as of April, everything looked as if we were fulfilling it. Nobody was warning that there is a tsunami or earthquake coming there. So then suddenly one of the expectations, a change in the terror law, anti-terror law, which was already done, came out to be a bomb, nuclear bomb, which we couldn't move. Everything was attached there. So we were saying that this is not a mathematical calculation. If you go back to the 72 criteria and look at each of the articles which is expected to be completed, one can make a different reading. It's very vague. So I think we were, in a way, we felt that this deal has not been correctly taken, and visa will be the important issue. If visa is not liberated, we will not put into force the readmission agreement. But this readmission agreement is not the one we agreed. It is two different things. Our promises to stop the illegal migration will continue, but this readmission agreement is a general one, which covers all the previously people who reached previously European territories, will not be into effect.
How would lifting the visa obligation for Turkish people help Turkey, help Turkish population? Will this dramatically improve the situation?
Well, it is something symbolic, actually, because we have 75 million population. Only 5 or 6 million people have passports, and most of them have already got long-time visa. So, but it was the people who felt good when we said visa will be liberated. Even if they wouldn't travel, it's like having a car in front of your building and you just use it 2 days a week, but you know that if you use it, you can go somewhere, you feel comfortable. So this was psychologically something which made Turkish people feel good. So when it wasn't given, then it turned to be a bad feeling, broken heart feeling, and worse hasn't been kept feeling in Turkey. So I think one of the reasons could be that the visa fees Turkish people is paying is something like 400 million euros, is a good revenue for embassies working in Turkey. They don't have money coming from their countries. They use the visa revenues. So, but I mean, we have to find a solution. It can't continue like this. So I hope diplomatically things will come back. Because of this period, when Turkey had seen a period when a former president of the Commission came 2 times to Turkey in 8 years. With this new era, when there was a difficulty, the new president of the Commission, president of the Council, came 5 times in 3 months to Turkey. Until the moment, everything was okay. So now we talk about a single-digit illegal migration. Nobody comes. So when people look at this picture, they say that it's only when Europe has a difficulty that Turkey is with. If things are solved, then the direction is towards another.
Ambassador, do you feel the EU hostile towards Turkey?
I don't believe in terms like hostile, my dear friend. I mean, in international relations or relations between country to country, you can say, okay, this country likes me, or this country doesn't like me. This doesn't, it could be between people, but countries' relations is based on mutual interests. So if I think the best thing to do is to increase the interests, enlarge the cake, and that country, because of that interest, becomes a better friend until the moment the interest continues. And it will be beneficial for my country or the other country. So I think nobody could be hostile. I mean, it depends on the conjuncture. If there's interest or strategic importance for a country's own strategic needs, etc., the relations will be good. So what Turkey offers still is there is interest to continue this relation for Turkey and for the European Union or for NATO. So until the moment this interest is lost, which will never happen, I think we will talk about a good relation. And I think we can mend some of the wrong statements coming from some leaders of the European Union or Western world. We never took it personally. We didn't establish our relations according to the statements of politicians, but our relations with the country was more important. And that gave good results, because when that person changes, then you have a better relation with that country, because that person is not the leader anymore. Then that leader comes back, then you might have some difficulty. But the important thing is interest, mutual interest, and increasing the cooperation between civil society, academicians, and not only government to government, but I think the world is more to the civil society.
I believe we have clarified some of the issues for general interest, but I'm sure that many from the public are having more questions, so I give floor to the questions now. Andrei?
One subject that wasn't covered, and in a way it's directly linked to the relationship between both Turkey and Europe and Turkey and NATO, is the deterioration of situation in Syria. So how do you think that's going to play out in the next weeks, but also month and couple of years to come, and where the nexus of differences in interests, but also in perspective between various players that interact in that terrain will come to play out? And what do you think the role Turkey is going to play on that?
Well, Turkey, right from the beginning, has supported the same idea, which is still at stage. In the beginning, the Syrian problem was much easier when you compare it today. It was the regime forces versus the opposition. But now it's a very complex situation. Many different elements, many different countries or organizations are involved now in Syria. And almost all the terrorist organizations in the world came there to test their new technologies, and it's like a terror laboratory, and they just give their messages that they exist and they are powerful by doing horrible things in Syria. So in order to find a solution to the Syrian problem, we have to tackle with many new elements which didn't exist in the beginning. Well, what Turkey is saying is, first, a leader who has killed his own people, Assad, has to be removed so that we can talk about a new Syria. Otherwise, 6 million people has already moved and left because they were threatened. They left their belongings, their houses, their families just to escape for their lives. So if this leader exists, they will never feel comfortable, even if they find a way to go back to Syria. It has to be a new face which will have credibility among the people who first left their countries because of this reason. Secondly, after a stage, we said that we must have secure zones there so that it could be secure by establishing a no-fly zone. And we can construct houses with hospitals, with schools there, so that some people in Europe or in Turkey, Syrians, can go back there. And once the others see that it is secure and they have a better life than in camps here and there, or people don't know anything about their future, they can go back there. So after 4 years, now people start talking about a no-fly zone, secure zones, and we proved that it is possible. The last attempt in the border of Turkey showed that it is possible only with troops, because bombing or air attacks doesn't give you any result. Physical existence on the ground was necessary. Unfortunately, from the beginning of the Syrian crisis, U.S. is not there with the soldiers, and U.S. public opinion doesn't allow any more U.S. troops to be sent to other countries, as the Satans, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden is not there anymore. It's difficult to convince people that there's a threat for the United States security in Syria. And there's no oil in Syria, which makes another effect for the decision-making process. So U.S. is not there. EU is not there. Individual countries are there from Europe or from other countries. They are doing the coalition operations, but mainly the work on the field is being done by those people who are trained to fight with either Daesh, ISIS, or with the regime forces. So it's a very difficult situation, but I think US and the European Union countries need Turkey more than anything else, because we are bordering, and we are the country who has stopped the foreign fighters move from Europe or other parts of the world to Syria. And it is, of course, very dangerous to start a conventional war with this unconventional force. We have to remember what happened in Mosul. It was 1,800 ISIS guerrillas captured Mosul when there was a 55,000 Iraqi army. They just left, leaving their uniforms behind, because they thought if they catch me, they will kill me, cut me, etc. And now we're talking about Mosul, we're talking about Raqqa, we're talking about Aleppo. So I think we need to be clever, intelligent, together, and we have to create new possibilities there. And if we lose again an attempt, then it will be a very disastrous situation. Therefore, we need each other. And Russia is there, which is a very important element, because for 300 years, Russia's aim was to reach the warm waters, Mediterranean. They are there, having one navy base, one air base, and they control the whole military might of Syria. They produce it. And unfortunately, they are there with their planes, soldiers, while we are not there. And they will never leave the advantage they have taken. So I think Russia and all these new elements will have to be dealt together. And without Russian cooperation, I don't think we can go to a peace solution, final peace solution in Syria.
That was an exhaustive answer. Please.
Your Excellency, Alexandra Albu, 24. Since you mentioned Russia, how would you describe the relation between Moscow and Ankara? And do you think this close ties with Moscow puts Turkey at odds with the European Union?
Well, we fought 300 years with Russia, And I don't see any country has that long of a relation. But we found a way by increasing, as I mentioned, common interests and to go to the best years of our relations with Russia. Russia is our neighbor. So we talk about a $32 billion of a trade volume, Turkish contractors having $100 billion of projects there, Russian tourists coming to Turkey, natural gas deliveries and new projects which will reach Europe. All was in this cake, which made this relation a healthy one based on mutual interests. Of course, one thing happened when a Russian plane was shot in Syria. It was a catastrophic fall for a few months, but we found a way to correct the relations, and we can say again that this relation is built on mutual interest and understanding the realities of the region so that we can move forward. Of course, because of Ukraine, Ukraine is our strategic partner, and we have helped Ukraine more than perhaps any other country. And we have always declared against Russia invading a part of Ukraine, and we are very much keen in territorial integrity of Ukraine. But we think that sanctions doesn't give results anywhere. This was the case before, it is the case now. It didn't give results in Iran, it didn't give results in Libya, not in Iraq. Nowhere these sanctions gave results. And we thought that for Russia again, this economic sanctions will not give any result, because we're talking about a Russia, 9 hours difference between East and West, and they have parts of Russia which is living the Middle Age perhaps, and the political nomenclatura will never be affected by the economic sanctions. They will still live the same beautiful life. I was chair of the Foreign Relations Committee in Turkey before becoming minister, and my counterpart in Russia was in the sanctions list. He said, I'm now a hero, because people are saying, please, how can I be added to this sanction list so that I can also become a hero like you? It was the feeling there. So that's why we didn't go along with the sanctions. Instead, I think it will be much better to put pressure on other possibilities. And our relation with Russia is our relation with Russia. It has never become an alternative to anything. We are a member of NATO. We are a negotiating country with the European Union. We're a member of the Islamic Conference. We are observer to the ASEAN. We are observer to the Latin American entities. We want to become observer to the Shanghai Group. We are a member of the RCA, which consists of Central Asia, Iran, etc., etc. So for us, it is only complementary, having good relations with countries or groups, and nothing is an alternative to the other. And I think it's a good advice to any country in the world, and actually EU is doing the same thing, or US is doing the same thing. I think enlarging the friendships and cooperation possibilities is more important than go back to sects, small number of countries versus other small number of countries era.
The so-called Jamestown Foundation. What is the thinking in Turkey about Romania's proposal regarding regularizing naval exercises in the Black Sea under NATO's auspices? What is the thinking in Turkey about this?
Well, this has been discussed in many platforms. I was the person who came here, which actually made a declaration between Foreign Affairs Commission chairs, Romania, Poland, and Turkey. So, and also this has been discussed in many other platforms, in NATO recently, etc. So, in principle, any friendship or strategic relation between our friend Romania is a positive thing for Turkey. Of course, perhaps the only difference is the speed of this scheme. Romania wants perhaps to go more faster than what Turkey thinks at this moment. We should be not as fast as Romania is envisaging. But of course, I think many things have been discussed in the NATO meeting in Warsaw. And in diplomacy, I think these have to be kept in some discrete meetings and not discussed in front of the public opinion to the same extent it has been discussed in meetings.
I'm Anna Maria Luca from Moderator Press. I'll be the devil's advocate because it's in fashion with journalists today. I'm going to ask you, why did Turkey take so long to get involved to tackle Daesh on the ground? Because it's been there for so many years. It actually went on Turkish territory several times and assassinated secular members of the opposition, the Syrian opposition. It also assassinated journalists on Turkish territory. At the same time, there were accusations, and these came from Russia, that there were Turkish interests in, buying oil from Daesh and all that stuff. So why did it take so long for the Turkish state to actually do something about it?
Well, this is one of the terminology. What you said was actually, I'm not criticizing you by using this terminology. This terminology was actually used by the group which want to give a bad image of Turkey, and with false information, this unfortunate understanding has been widely spread. First of all, when you said politicians were killed or journalists were killed, it wasn't during the Daesh period. It was some fundamentalist groups. Daesh is a new entity in a way, but the country which suffered more than any other country of Daesh is Turkey. We had bomb explosions, we lost hundreds of lives, and the airport was attacked, cities were attacked. Meanwhile, the problem was, the accusation was Turkey doesn't stop the flow of foreign fighters. But the problem was, we didn't have exchange of information. So we have 35 million tourists coming to Turkey, and we don't apply visas. So they come to Turkey. We don't know if they come for touristic travel to Antalya or Izmir, or they will join the Daesh in Syria, because they are British citizens or Swiss citizens or German citizens or French citizens. So until the moment when we start receiving information, then we stopped their coming, and we captured thousands of them in Turkey. Many of them are in jail, but it was because of the information. We're talking about 30,000 people, which is in the list to be stopped. We did that, and nobody has now infiltrated. But unfortunately, this was the wrong information gathered. Concerning the information you mentioned, Turkey using Daesh-produced oil, it was during our difficult times with Russia that Russia spread this information, which wasn't true. It was immediately denounced by our coalition partners as well. It is a wrong information, and Russia is now backed as a friend of Turkey. I'm not sure if they will repeat the same information again.
Well, this is new for me, that Russia is disinforming the public opinion. Please, one more question, the last one. No more questions? So thank you very much, Volkan Bozkir, for being here, and I think that many issues were clarified today in relation with Turkey, Syria, the European Union, and perhaps the United States. Thank you again for everyone.
Well, I've been told that actually, thank you so much.